Made by a consultant after 87 wrote to UHL management about their concerns around overcrowding and relentless demand on their services. Speaking on the Hard Shoulder, consultant physician Professor Declan Lyons says action needs to be taken to address ED overcrowding.
It's literally akin to, say, going to the Gaelic grounds at Croke Park for, Munster final or whatever, and the GA is saying, listen, lads, we're only opening one gate today. Well, if you can get through that gate, you might have a fine old time, but the process of getting in is problematic, and that, in essence, is what's happened.
Enoch Burke will face a daily fine of €700 from tomorrow if he refuses to purge his contempt of court. He was dismissed from his position at Wilson's Hospital School on Friday following a disciplinary process into misconduct. Enoch Burke has still gone to the school despite not having a teaching role there anymore. Legal Affairs Editor with the Irish Independent is Shane Phelan. He outlines the background to today's judgment.
Wilson's Hospital School applied to the High Court earlier this month for orders either sequestering the assets of Enoch Burke, which is essentially having them taken from his possession, or for a fine to be imposed on him. And Mr. Justice Brian O'Moore ruled on it this morning.
It's 7:02.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Forget the flowers this Valentine's. Take her to Paris or Pisa instead with Ryanair's low fares.
Mainly dry tomorrow with some brighter sunny spells, highest temperatures of 6 to 9 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette. Start your day in flow with the new Gillette Labs razor with exfoliating bar.
This is News Talk.
You're welcome along to Thursdays Off the Ball. It's Nathan with you this evening. Busy show between now and 10 o'clock. Conor Hourihan is going to join us on the football show. Republic of Ireland midfielder. He's now playing with Derby County in League One. Left Aston Villa during the summer. Moved to Derby County where he's part of a big Irish contingent there. He's in a rich vein of goal scoring form, and he's going to join us for the football show to talk about his career all the way from League One to the Premier League, and now as he's about to turn 32, entering a different stage of his career. Really interesting guy, Conor Hourihan. So he's on his way on the football show. John Giles on the way at 7:30. He'll be reflecting on the week in football. And Barry Hennessy is going to join us after 8 o'clock. 4-time All-Ireland winner with the Limerick Hurlers. The backup keeper to Nicky Quaid. One of these just remarkable stories where he's been around for 8-9 years while rarely playing, but an unbelievably key figure of what Limerick did over the last 4 or 5 years in the standards that he set, in the way that he pushed Nicky Quaid. And the life of the backup goalkeeper is just such a bizarre one. So we're going to talk to Barry Hennessy about that role and a whole lot more besides. Really interesting guy. So he's coming up after 8 o'clock as well. 53106 is the text number at Off the Ball if you want to get in touch on social media. Richie McCormack is with us. Good evening, Richie.
Nathan, how are you?
I'm all right. You're back at home. You had a nice three evenings away from the family, and you're gone again.
I know, yeah. Back to my bolt hole here. The question still remains to be answered, though, Nathan. You are off to a gig apparently on the Monday. We wanted to know on air yesterday whether it was to Lewis Capaldi or to Thedators. Which one's it going to be?
I missed this. Yeah. I had a random tweet from somebody going, "Oh, I bet you it's Lewis Capaldi at Nathan Murph," and I was going, well, you bet. What's Lewis Capaldi? What are you talking about? I'm off to a gig on Monday. I'm not actually off to a proper gig on Monday. This is like now going to be the most boring story of all time. Well, it was never going to be that exciting in the first place if it was either Lewis Capaldi or Editors. Which do you think? If I had a choice between Lewis Capaldi and Editors, clearly I'm the same vintage as Richie. I'm going to Editors, though I'm kind of going. Like, was anybody? Do Editors sell out a gig? Like, the lead singer of Editors used to go out with Edith Bowman, correct? Married Edith Bowman?
I think they're still together. I think they're married.
Well done.
Yeah.
Like, the Editors were a nice little mid-2000s indie rock band, certainly of my vintage. Like, there were no Block Party. No Block Party.
That's true. They're not in the upper tier of mid-noughties indie. That's for sure.
No, you might have stretched yourself to a bit of an Editors gig of a Monday night, would you?
I don't think I've ever actually seen them live now that I think of it.
No, I don't. No, and certainly I don't get the whole Lewis Capaldi thing at all. He clearly can write a nice romantic ballad that the youngsters of the world like, but him as a live experience, no thanks. So I'm not going to see either of them. I'm going to see, I I'm going to see Somebody Feed Phil.
What's
You watch
that?
this?
No.
It's a Netflix show. It's this guy, Phil Rosenthal, who was one of the writers.
Oh, that's
of...
the Everybody Loves Raymond guy.
Yes.
He's the producer and
so he's doing a live show in the Olympia. It's like very harmless, nice little Netflix. I don't want to sit down and watch anything serious. And he just goes around, like all these travel shows, to very nice parts of the world, eat some nice food. It's a bit touristy. It's one of those when he comes to Dublin and you see where he goes to in Dublin, you're like, I thought when he was going to all these wonderful cities, he was going off the beaten track. And then he comes to Dublin and he's in the Guinness Storehouse.
Yeah.
But very nice man.
Where does he go to in Dublin?
He goes to the Guinness Storehouse and he hung around a little bit with the Happy Pair.
Oh,
good lads.
Now that has raised the possibility in my head that I've just realised.
Oh, they're going to appear on stage.
That they might be there. No, he's it's very easy watching. And then I saw he was coming to Dublin and said, this is the thing, myself and my wife sit down and we watch this, passes half an hour at the end of a stressful day. Said, let's go out on a Monday night and let's go and watch this.
You booked
and now I'm out in I booked it. Yeah.
Out of the blue.
Just out of the blue.
God, you've it all covered. You've it sussed.
Ooh, I'll tell you what. How romantic. You can't get much more romantic than a night at.
What does the live show comprise of?
I have no idea. I'm really concerned now it'll be Phil and the Happy Pair for 2 hours. And listen, you do get to an age where you're just happy to be out. So already it's I go for a couple of drinks beforehand, and hopefully it'll be done by 10, so I might even get one in after, and not home too late. But still, it's a Monday night. These things, what's rare is wonderful.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I wasn't expecting that one, but there you go.
I'm nowhere near as cool as you see. Richie, at least, you're right though. Any gig I now go to is a nostalgia fest. It's incredibly rare I would go to something that, is just a band release. So like the only tickets for a gig I have in the summer are like Arctic Monkeys, and I better not try any of that new stuff. Which in fairness, I think most people are feeling.
I've now become fond of sitting at a gig as well. I got tickets for Yola Tango there in April and got ones for the Circle because I just went, you know what? Standing for the duration of this one, I don't think I'll be up to it. So yeah, having a nice sit, I think is going to be good.
Yeah. I'm sitting at this as well. I've no idea. I presume he's not cooking. I presume he's just telling nice stories. My worry is I've never seen Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. My concern is that that's part of it and he's telling stories of this becoming the biggest show on American TV, and I've no idea what he's talking about.
Still repeated most mornings on Channel 4.
Is it?
Every morning on Channel 4, yeah. Wow. Everybody, double bill of Everybody Loves Raymond, triple bill Frasier. That's my morning.
What do you watch in the morning? What? That's fair. Now I'm going off on a terrible tangent. When you're just sitting around the house in the morning at 10 o'clock, and you're not really watching that, but you're just putting something on. Like what are you leaving on?
Minder.
Straight to ITV3
Sometimes I leave this morning on. Sometimes
no.
This morning on.
I'm a Minder fan, so we'll leave Arthur and Terry on in the background there, or just actively watch it. That's after my triple bill of Frasier on Channel 4. Yeah. Sometimes working in the evenings has its benefits, and that's one of them.
I'll be honest with you, I'll be more likely with the radio in the morning. I won't turn the television on more often than not, because there's a slight thing, I don't know what sort of bell it rings in the mind, but seeing those morning TV shows, it depresses me. It gets me down.
A little bit of Premier League years in the background. Passes an hour quite nicely.
Pass an hour and a half, and the rest.
An hour quite nice. The TV moment of the year was last Saturday night. Do you watch the Michael McIntyre show? God, I'm so bloody middle-aged, it's depressing. Do you watch this Michael McIntyre show?
Don't know.
They do this thing where they like rock up to somebody's house and surprise them in bed in the middle of the night. So it was Peter Crouch.
Right.
You gotta watch this. It's hilarious. Have you seen this, Richie? So
it involves Michael McIntyre, so that's a general no for me.
Yeah, I've never had any cred to start with, but it's going downhill rapidly. There's 8 get to the sport messages coming in, I would say, very quickly. Lads, this is we talk about Kilmacud again. These are the options on the table right now. So he goes in and it's all arranged with Crouch's wife, and they sneak in the middle of the night, and he's over in Portsmouth at 3 a.m. They wake him up and he's like, what the hell is going on? And they bring in Dion Dublin randomly at some stage, and then they turn off the lights and they tell him you have to find 5 things that have changed in the room. So he's looking around, he finds 4 and he can't find the other one, and he turns over and Holly Willoughby is in the bed with him.
Good grief.
You have to watch
it. What kind of show is this?
This is family entertainment at 6:30 on a Saturday night. This is as good as it gets for me.
There's surely some legal steps that Mr. Crouch can take after that.
I'd say he probably doesn't want to take any legal steps.
Because this makes sense. I saw this after, I think, Murray's win. Did they do it to him a few years ago?
Yes.
In his hotel room.
Yes.
What's
the danger to it?
What's the danger? It's not going to kick off. He's
If
ready.
somebody arrived into your room at 3 o'clock in
I'd
the
be
morning.
furious. I wouldn't get in the
live
film
with a camera. Like,
Best believe that'd kick
you'd
off.
have to wonder. You'd have to wonder.
Yeah.
Anyways, Barry Hennessy's coming up.
Yeah.
So you arranged this, Arthur. Barry Hennessy retired. Because the Limerick team are so familiar at this stage, Barry Hennessy retires. Barry Hennessy has been the backup to Nicky Quaid for a long time. Just to give you a sense of how long, Richie, Barry Hennessy played his last championship game in 2015. He's been on the bench for every championship game since then with Limerick without getting a match, but has rocked up to training every night and has pushed Nicky Quaid as hard as he possibly can in training to get him to be the best goalkeeper in hurling right now. So he's coming up after it. Like, the level of commitment that requires, knowing, and he said he did get to the stage around the time John Kiley came in, of knowing he wasn't going to, in all likelihood, move past Nicky Quaid, and it got past the stage of waiting and looking at every twinge going, maybe, and just got his head around the fact of, my job in this group is to get the best out of him. It's a heck of a sacrifice.
There's a mad level of selflessness to it. There's a part of it that's up the upside. So it's like, I suppose, depending on whether you're kind of as he was talking about ego a lot as well, and kind of having to forfeit ego entirely. So there's a part of you that was kind of like, well, you're either very happy to be here and you're privileged to the fact you have 4 All-Ireland medals and the rest, or there's that part of you which I assumed is kind of in everyone that gets to that level, where you're like, well, I want to be playing. I want to, you know what I mean? Exact inverse of what happens with Conor Horan afterwards, who leaves arguably a nicer position, or could have taken different positions in the championship, where maybe in and out of the team to go, like, I need to be playing. And they're probably in around the same age, funnily enough. Horace's probably a year or two younger than him. And it's just an unusual position, because you're almost just like an active member of staff. Like, effectively, you're not. You know you'll play if needs be, but there must come a point where it's like, well, this guy's pretty durable. He's not going anywhere. Like, he had one injury in 2015 where he was talking about when Barry got his chance. But Quaid's been ever present ever since, never even looked anything but.
And there's also that bit of, because nobody really knows you or knows about you, and okay, he plays for Kilmallock, so he'd have a reputation in the club game. Everybody who's ever watched the match, when the number one keeper goes off, when the second guy comes in, there's an automatic doubt and a nervousness and a uh-oh, and that's you. And
you think of the pressure even in football that Evan Comerford comes under when Cluxton was. Different sort of dynamic. They were very much sort of holder of it and protege, for use of a better word. But what I always remember as well with the expectation of that was, like, everyone was, and I'm not commenting on what Comerford is one way or another up to the standard of Cluxton, but I do remember there was the general acceptance that, oh, he's as good, if not better. And there is that sort of mythology that can build around you, that you're almost like, you're coming after this guy, but this is the guy. With Hennessy, it probably didn't ever work that way even. He didn't have the benefit of that, because he was always the exact same sort of age group. And it's just an unusual, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you keep going when surely all you want to do is be playing. No, it's not happening.
The strange thing is that Barry Hennessy's father, Tom,
that was crazy,
also the backup goalkeeper with Limerick behind
Joe Quaid.
Yeah. Now there's your next book. The backup keepers to the Quaids.
Don't say that. Write that down.
Don't say. Number 2. Like,
that's good. Number 16.
Because there's been a lot of talk about Caoimhín Kelleher on the show over the last few weeks, and should he, shouldn't he? Should he stay? Does he need to move? And obviously we look at it very different here from over in the UK, in that we look at it as to what it would mean for Ireland. We don't know how good a keeper Caoimhín Kelleher is. He's clearly a brilliant goalkeeper at being able to perform on a big occasion and step in and not be overawed and fit into a team and play to a style that suits Liverpool. It's a very different thing, Richie, doing it for 45 games a season and making a mistake, as is what's happening with Gavin Bazunu, making mistakes and having to come out 3 days later and play again against another top Premier League team and maybe concede 4 and then play 3 days later, make another mistake, and the eyes of the world been on you. Whereas Caoimhín Kelleher's in this sort of, there's low expectations around him at the moment, because he's coming in as backup to Allison, and everything he does is sort of can't believe he's done this.
Yeah, and for both of them, both for Bazunu, considering where he's on a domestic level where he started off, and then of course the move to Manchester City, and with Kelleher being at Liverpool, like, the only feasible route out for them was downwards. And that's something that they've got to deal with as well. That they've reached their pinnacle in terms of the clubs they play for, more than likely, by their early 20s, and from that point onwards, it's a slow spiral downwards, because Bazunu's gone off to to play for Southampton. And granted, he is of an age whereby absolutely he could go on and become one of the Premier League or indeed the world's best ever goalkeepers and find himself playing for Real Madrid or someone like that. But that's, you got to go down before you go back up, and that's a weird place to be in as well. And I don't know if that's what's keeping Kelleher at Liverpool, is taking that step and thinking, yeah, maybe I am actually an equal, or at least pushing Alisson here to a degree, and maybe I can get regular game time eventually here at Liverpool, and I do have the years to play with. But he also has to toy with the notion of, I am going to take a massive step down no matter where I go to next, unless like a big European giant like PSG decide to cast aside Gianluigi Donnarumma and bring in Creevin Kelleher, which, you know, let's face it, isn't going to happen. But it's a mental thing to do it as well, taking that step off onto unsteady kind of unsteady ground, really.
93 Rubik's Cube has been in touch. Lewis Capaldi, our editors, give the people the news they want. I think 93 Rubik's Cube was the only person waiting for the last 24 hours to find out this. Unfortunately, 93 Rubik's Cube, I'm not going to either of them. But Mike Green, himself and herself, are also going to see Phil as well. He also has no idea what it's going to entail. But feck it, I'm going anyways. And I'm kind of the same. Go to see Phil, it doesn't sit that well with me because I'm usually such a cynical person, and he's just a very nice man. Again, he's just easy watching. He loves everything. Everything is great. It's very out of character for me to like somebody like that, but I'm just all in on this guy.
This is Monday coming.
Monday coming, yeah.
Can't wait to hear about it next week.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. First 10 minutes of next Thursday's show. Frank saying, should also, I don't know if we were looking for recommendations, like these nights out are one off, so there's no point saying something else is good to me because I'm not going. You should also try the live Faulty Towers experience. You get served dinner and no doubt abuse from actor Basil. Frank, that sounds terrible.
That was on. I've not been to that, but my father works in Hotel in Sligo and they've hosted that there. So I don't know who arranges it, whoever's arranged. It's meant to be very funny.
Does your father work in Hotel Sligo or a hotel in Sligo?
Sligo. Do you want me to say the hotel?
You can give them as much free
Sligo
advertising
Park Hotel.
Will they get a warm welcome?
Oh, the warmest. The warmest.
And I can imagine so. I'd say. Yeah. I'd say he's got a certain charm.
Oh, unmistakable.
You just mentioned Limerick Hurling, you'll be there all night.
You will literally be there all night.
Yeah, they'll keep the bar open. You mentioned Limerick Hurling, late bar for everybody. We better get to some sports news. Richie, Kilmacud.
Yeah.
What's happening?
The latest wrinkle in this one, Kilmacud Crokes reportedly have zero interest in replaying even the All-Ireland Club Football Final. Glen, of course, have lodged an objection as Crokes had 16 active players on the pitch for the Ulster Champions' final attack of Sunday's game. According to the Irish Examiner today, Crokes are expected to lodge their own counter-objection to the CCCC tomorrow. They have until Saturday noontime to do that. It's going to come sooner, and they don't want to replay. They'd rather hand the cup back, is the word coming back from the Stillorgan club. Yeah,
there've been a lot of rumours around this over the last, probably 48 hours, that there was a sense in Kilmacud that they did nothing wrong, that a mistake was made by the officials. They won the game on the pitch. The final whistle was blown. They went up and they lifted the trophy. And, we are celebrating as All-Ireland champions and will continue to do so for the next year. Now, there's all sorts of complications, and you have to have huge sympathy for both sets of players because they've been on the road since, playing matches since June, July, if not earlier than that. They've planned their holidays with their families who've been waiting, and they said, well, we're done, come hell or high water on Sunday, probably off on their holidays today, tomorrow, gone for the next 2 weeks. Some players might go off to Australia for a few months, and now you're dragging them back to play that. It's a messy situation that if Kilmacud refuse to play this, what do the GEA do? The fact that the objection has gone in and the GEA want to play this by the books, they've said right from the off, we are going to go through the process and nothing will happen unless Glenn object. It feels as though once Glenn objected that there now has to be another winner. Unless if Kilmacud refuse to play, that the GEA will come out and say, we're just going to stick with the result.
I think the genie's out of the bottle. I don't think you can go back.
So then you're in a scenario where if Kilmacud say, well, we're not playing it again, that you would award it to Glenn,
it'd be meaningless,
without playing a game, which I don't think Glenn would want. Which just means everybody knows that Kilmacud won the game, but there's an asterisk, or it doesn't even go down in the record books. It turns into an even greater shambles. We're even past omni shambles at this stage. So if Kilmacud don't want to play, which they're obviously well within their rights to do,
I think it's just unfortunate. That's just it. There's not. It's one of those. It's not. It's one of those things where it's with the Henri handball to a degree, where it wasn't necessarily it's not like the match was won and lost in that moment. It was a match, granted for that, the match was certainly weighted in France's favour, but it wasn't so decisive as to be completely irredeemable. This situation as well, it was a chance of something. It's not a complete robbery of something. It's not like this altered the result in any way specifically. I think it's very unfortunate, it's very unlucky, but if I was coming from a Kilmacud perspective, I would absolutely not go playing it again. It's done. It's like, that's it. If you want to take it that way and do it administratively, fine. It's very harsh on both. Like, to be honest with you, I think both of them have. It's kind of been tainted and ruined for both of them, because I know, like, people are joking with the fact of being out, like, celebrating it and celebrating with, like, drink and big nights out, but that's not it entirely. It's also like it's a momentous thing for a lot of those players, like a one-off thing that they might never have imagined would happen. And it's whatever happens now, it's always going to have that little taint of that week was kind of ruined. And I just think you kind of cut losses and just go on with it. It's not, you can't, there's no satisfying way to redeem this now. If it's replayed and Kilmacud win again, it still won't be satisfying. They'll still, like, there's still going to be, Glen haven't lost.
There's a satisfaction in that. At least then it's done and there's never a question. I guess if Kilmacud are meeting again tonight or over the coming days, it's when they look at each other in the eyes and say, if we decide we're not going ahead with this, are we all comfortable with the fact that we are doing the right thing? That we can believe we are All-Ireland champions, we can believe we have achieved what we set out to achieve at the start of the year, but the trophy may not be here.
Yeah, that's tough, because obviously the clubhouse is the central part of it, seeing that there when you go in, or a replica of it obviously, but I don't think they will have any doubt whatsoever that they won legitimately and fair and square. So I don't think it's going to make any big difference. It might embolden them to go further, but just judging by the reaction of what's coming out and what we're hearing, there's no doubt in their minds. They're not at all compromised. They'll probably feel a bit, they'll feel hard done by, because they're not probably getting the dues that they expect that they should be getting, and the kudos for winning.
Well, there's been zero analysis of the game.
You know what I mean?
There's been no talk of Shane Walsh's performance or Paul Mannion's performance, or how Glenn managed to really, do a fine job on them, Conor Glass's performance. It's just the controversy, which is understandable because of what happened and what developed. Does that stop? Like, what's the end point? I'm still not sure what the end point of this can be now that the official objection has been lodged.
Well, sure, maybe they order it replayed, but like, if they're not going to, they're not going to, and I don't know when they do, and all these different little bits and pieces. As you're saying, people have lives to live, and it's not. I'm sure there's nothing insurmountable. It's not going to be so crazy that, well, nobody can go back, they can't play again, and they'll find ways if they do choose to play again. But I think even if they are mandated by the GA to do it, there's no guarantee they will do it, and there's no guarantee they'll necessarily feel bad about not doing it. And from Glenn's perspective, I don't know. It'd be very interesting to see what they think of it as well, because it's kind of, you don't see this happen a lot in sport. There's not often replays of games for things.
No, because most sport have their rules set in such a way that this isn't a possibility.
Kind of, but it does happen. Like, there's not, like, until, like, say without
But
VAR.
Henry wasn't. Jesus, I'm not even going over. Henry wasn't a cheating thing. I think it became more of a moral question. I think the issue here was that the official screwed up. There was a rules breach that certainly wasn't of Glenn's, and we don't know. Like, the likelihood is they don't score a goal, but we'll never know. So, yeah, we have to wait and see what comes out of Kilmacud over the next 24 hours or so. Richie, semi-finals day at the Australian Open.
Yeah, 6th seed Aryna Sabalenka will play Wimbledon champion Elena Rybakina in the Australian Open women's final. Rybakina ended Victoria Azarenka's hopes of a third title in Melbourne with a straight sets victory today, while Sabalenka beat the unseeded Pole Magda Linette 7-6, 6-2 to reach her first ever Grand Slam singles final. It continues Sabalenka's unbeaten start to 2023, which she's hinted could be down to ditching her sports psychologist.
To be honest, I decided to stop working with a psychologist. I realized that nobody than me will help, and on the preseason I spoke to my psychologist saying, like, listen, I felt like I have to deal with that by myself, because every time hoping that someone will fix my problem, it's not fixing my problem. So I just have to take this responsibility, and I just have to I have to deal with that. And I'm not working with a psychologist anymore.
Is it some sort of unofficial Irish transfer deadline day today?
Seems like it, yeah. Feels like it for sure. Several Republic of Ireland players are on the move. Republic of Ireland striker Michael Obafemi is set to complete a move from Swansea City to Burnley. His club Swansea have agreed a loan deal with the Championship leaders with an obligation to make the move permanent in the summer. Conor Coventry has signed a new 12-month contract extension at West Ham, but he'll spend the rest of this season on loan at Rotherham. Former Ireland goalkeeper Darren Randolph has joined Bournemouth on an 18-month deal from West Ham. Shawnee Maguire has swapped Preston for Coventry today. Coventry have also signed Ireland under-19 defender Luke McNally from Burnley on loan, that is. Meanwhile, Brighton have completed their signing of Marco Mahoney from Cork City. The 18-year-old will link up with the Premier League club's under-21 squad, having signed a contract with them until 2025.
Hopefully Michael Obafemi settles, gets on with Vincent Kompany. They get promoted next year and we suddenly have another young striker playing on a regular basis in the Premier League. We haven't seen that level of consistency from Obafemi. We haven't seen him be able to get on with managers for long enough. So hopefully this is just a period of
great move
calmness. It's a great move.
Like it's and I wonder, I presume he did a bit of homework beforehand, even talking to the likes of Josh Cullen or whatever, find out, or whatever way it works, that find out how he'd work with Vincent Kompany. But that's that's all. And so why do they do it that way when it's loan? Then if it's permanent, from loan to permanent, if you know you're going to buy them, why not just buy now? It's just a financial thing. You're spreading it out.
Yeah.
Okay, grand.
Pretty much, so that you can wait till the summer till you've sold one of your other strikers and get the money in. And maybe there's something in there, if he picks up a bad injury, you don't need to make the long-term commitment.
Well,
could well be to do with them getting...
I think Richie was saying it's permanent regardless.
Obligation to make it permanent, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's odd, but yeah.
It's it's like the Chelsea and the 8.5-year contracts. The real football is back, of course, on Saturday night. The real GAA to talk about. Mayo and Galway. Feels a little bit early. Some news from Galway.
It does, yeah. Galway are going to be without all-star defender Liam Silk for the entire 2023 inter-county campaign. The Currafin player is staying on his travels in New Zealand this year. Galway begin their Division 1 football campaign, as he mentioned, against Mayo. It's at McKell Park on Saturday evening. Kieran Malloy is also missing from Porty Joyce's side. That is due to an ACL injury.
All right, couple of minutes for a few more stories, Richie.
Yeah, Ian Costello has been handed a new wide-ranging job at Munster. The former Wasps coach is swapping his current position as Academy and Pathway Manager for the new role of Head of Rugby Operations. Among Costello's new duties will be assisting head coach Graham Rowntree with player recruitment. He'll also oversee the long-term strategic development of the elite player pathway and succession planning. Costello's new job will mirror those done by Guy Easterby at Leinster and Bryn Cunningham at Ulster. Darkness brought a premature end to the first day's play at the Dubai Desert Classic, with Shane Lowry among those still to commence their first rounds. Rory McIlroy best of the Irish and 2 under par. He still has 3 holes to play of his opening round. He's 3 shots off the lead of the Belgian Thomas Pieters. Tom McKibben shot at 2 over 74. Padraig Harrington struggling though on 8 over. He has though 5 holes left to play of his first round. And Willie Mullins claimed a 9th Thyestes Chase victory at Gorham Park this afternoon. 9-2 favourite, carefully selected. One as one from a short head from the Gordon Elliott trained Dunboyne. Speaking to Racing TV afterwards, Mullins praised the job done by jockey Paul Townend aboard, carefully selected.
I was happy, I was just watching the whole way down the back, and he just kept out of trouble, kept jumping, kept him in the race. Made I think 2 mistakes. Did he make one over the far side here and at the 4th last? But when he made the mistake of the 4th last, I thought that was him gone. 3 or 4 horses past him. But Paul just sat on him, kept him together, gave him a breather, which very few jockeys do nowadays. Gave him a breather, went down to the 3rd last. Probably not as, it was tidy enough. And then I could just see him coming and played his card going to the 2nd last and got a good jump at the last. And it was a huge performance.
What is with Richie's hat? Asked Michael O'Connell. Is he planning to commit a burglary later or something?
That'd be giving it away and would ruin the surprise. Maybe I'm conducting some kind of Michael McIntyre.
Possibly. I was going to say, Michael, he's been stealing a living for years, so wouldn't surprise me. What?
It's very, very, very.
On that note,
that's Michael McIntyre level.
Hey, this is what I'm getting from my terrible TV viewing. Richie, thank you as always.
Nice lad.
Arthur, we shall talk to you later.
Cheers, Nathan.
Time for the cash machine.
Your chance to win big. News Talk's cash machine.
So after Kathy's record win on Tuesday, we're on another run of rollovers. Someone missed our call on Thursday afternoon. So to get involved, here's the number you need to know. €42,579.31. Text play to 57557. That's 57557. Get your entry in